Hi, I'm Grishma Kuttar, and you're listening to episode 7 of Mission Manipur, a frontline podcast that looks in detail at the Manipur conflict. This episode is titled Separation. I'm starting this episode with a disclaimer. As the stories that I'm going to be narrating are very sensitive, all the names in this episode have been changed to protect the identities of these people. Some stories are super complicated to tell the world. One part of the difficulty is that it would put the people who are the centerpieces of these stories at risk. But the other part is also that many such stories are super uncomfortable that leave very little to be said or discussed. There are such stories that have been abandoned, and people, including those in power, have chosen to look away. The first aspect that you'll hear when the violence in Manipur is being discussed is that the warring communities, which is the Meiteis and the Kuki-Zo tribes, are completely separated. This means that Meiteis in the hills have fled to the valley, and the Kuki-Zo tribes were eventually all cleansed from the capital. Among the exceptions are people who are married into families from the other side, because of which they have ended up staying in a side where they otherwise would be killed. Roman's story belongs to this category. Roman's father is Meitei and mother is from one of the Kuki-Zo tribes. I'm going to withhold which tribe she belongs to, as this can lead to further issues for her. Roman's parents are both from Churachandpur district. They met each other when they were in school and were eventually married in the 1990s. A month before the violence started, Roman's father passed away. The family was in the process of grieving his death when Roman's village came under attack on May 3rd. Roman's village, which is on the border of the valley and the hills, has houses belonging to different communities. Meiteis, Kukis, Koms, Bengalis, Meitei Muslims. All these communities stayed at his village, but on the day of the violence, his house was targeted by mobs. One of Roman's siblings is married to a Meitei, so the family decided to flee towards Imphal and stay at his house in the middle of the valley. As the state lost itself in violence all of May, Roman and his family stayed put, not venturing out. Roman feared more for his mother, who was tribal and Kuki-Zo, than for himself. It seemed like things would be okay when the news of an ambulance being burnt reached the family. This incident is one of the most shocking killings that has happened during the violence in Manipur. Tong Sing Hang Sing was born to a Meitei mother and a Kuki father and was 7 years old when the violence started in May. He had escaped with his family from his predominantly Kuki village and had taken refuge at an Assam Rifles camp close by. Now, this camp was regularly attacked for providing shelter to Kukis. On one of the days, in a gun battle that went on for hours between armed Meiteis and Assam Rifles personnel, a splinter from a bullet hit Tong Sing's head. The boy started bleeding profusely and needed immediate medical intervention if his life had to be saved. The Assam Rifles personnel had no choice but to send the kid to the closest medical facility, which was in Imphal. Everybody at the camp decided that the child will be safe with the mother and her relative, as they were both Meitei. But that was not the case. The ambulance that was transporting the three of them was stopped midway by a mob. Even though the ambulance had a police convoy, the mob set it on fire. All the three were killed. This news set off panic among all such families with mixed parentage still living in Imphal Valley, including Romans. This was in June of 2023. I remember clearly that by then, if you were from the other community and were caught on the wrong side of the state, your life was in danger. I mean, that is still the case even now. Anybody from the Meitei or the Kuki side will disappear if spotted anywhere close to the borders. Roman's mother, Rebecca, made a decision for the family. She had to flee Imphal and go back to Churachandpur along with one of her sons, who was also married to a tribal. When I spoke to Rebecca, she told me that not only was her life in danger, but so was that of her daughter-in-law and her grandchild. She felt this fear. Roman and his sibling had to stay back in Imphal as somebody had to work as the family had nothing left. Everything they owned was gone in the violence. What is worse is that because Roman's house was burned down by a Meitei mob, his family couldn't even register an FIR against them. This FIR is required if you want to claim compensation or to be considered as a displaced family. Only then would you be eligible for monthly supplies. But filing this FIR would put the family at risk. Rebecca went back to Churachandpur along with her son and his family, hoping it would make life a little easier. But no. In the first relief camp that she stayed at, there were residents from her village who recognized her and started making threats, demanding why she was being allowed to stay in the camp when she was in fact Meitei. Now, what I've understood about identity in Manipur is that once you're married, the practice is that the partner would be attributed the same identity as that of their husbands. It didn't matter that Rebecca's husband was dead. People saw her as Meitei in her home district, attacked her, and wanted her to be removed from the camp she was staying at. Rebecca had to eventually leave that camp and shift to another camp, hoping that she would be safe there. But even there, she wasn't. Finally, a relative stepped in and gave her space within her compound, which is where Rebecca's family is staying right now. The first question that Roman asked me when he met me was, open quotes, "Ma'am, how is my mother?" Close quotes. I had met Rebecca already and I thought that it would be a far more difficult conversation than meeting Roman. I was completely wrong. Roman actually is barely an adult himself and has 2 more siblings that he's taking care of while living in Imphal for the first time. One of his siblings has a hearing disability. There have been at least 2 occasions where Roman was dragged away by militant groups who alleged that he was helping cookies. They beat him up in spite of his place and only let him go because of his Aadhaar card. Now, this is the only thing that has worked in Roman's favor. His Aadhaar card has a Meitei sounding name, and this is the only way that he has protected himself in spite of being stopped by such groups multiple times. But this is also the reason he cannot travel to Churachandpur. Roman's predicament is heartbreaking not just because his house is burnt away, his village is gone, and he can no longer meet his mother. But even working in Imphal, which is seeing one of its worst phases, isn't easy. When I met him, he was out of a job and was hoping to leave the state just so that he could have a steadier income. On the other side of the state, Rebecca spoke to me about choices. The choice she had to make of splitting her family apart to stay alive, but also to make sure everybody is fed. The choice of wanting to live with her other kids, but not being able to. The choice of leaving Manipur so that they could all reunite, but not being able to afford that choice. Between Roman and Rebecca, I felt like I was picking on a story that had no beginning or an end. Mary is the coordinator of a resettlement site in Faizang village. Close to 800 displaced people now live here in makeshift houses, most of whom are displaced from villages spread across Kangpopi district. All the times that I've visited this camp, I've spotted Mary working on something or the other, either carrying relief supplies from house to house or telling me what in the camp needs immediate intervention. Mary was living with her husband, who was Meitei, in one of the valley districts, but had to flee to get her mother to safety. When she fled Kangchup along with her mother, Mary's baby was just 6 months old. Mary has not been able to meet her husband since the violence started and has been fending for her child and her mother all by herself. Mary agreed to speak to me, even though she told me that she sees no point in talking about her life or her situation. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we talk about your family.
Actually, before the violence, I was working as a teacher in a private school. And after that, my baby she was 7 years and 7 months, 7 months, and she was not feeling well. And she is not feeling well. And on that 2nd of May 2023, we came in my village Kangchup, and on 3rd of May we start running. That the violence has started.
But before the 3rd of May, you were staying in a valley district, right?
Yeah.
Before your marriage, you were staying in Kangchup, right?
Yeah.
So after your marriage, you shifted into Imphal. But before the violence started, did you ever sense like, okay, this kind of sentiment against us, that is against Kuki people, was going on in Imphal? Did you feel a little unsafe or anything before that? Or did you just think this is just politics? Nothing will happen?
If I'll go there, they will accept me as a daughter-in-law, and he will accept me as his wife. But I afraid the mob because my in-laws will be there. They will be presenting there. But even though the mob and my family, if we compare it, it will be difficult for them also to handle.
To protect you?
Yeah, to protect me. That's why it's unsafe.
You're living with your daughter now, no?
Yeah.
So your daughter is the center of your life,
Yeah.
which is what I see. Why don't you tell us a little bit about her? How is she? What is she up to? Like, she's so naughty, I can see that. So how is it like being her mother?
Being a mother, sometimes I feel like now I'm thinking as myself as a single mother. So my daughter, she's very naughty. Sometimes I used to beat her and I used to scold, I used to scream at her. But sometimes when I feel like, when I see some other parents, including with her husband and his wife, with his son or daughter, I feel like jealous, sometimes. Not every time, but sometimes when I feel like staying in a corner and sitting while she's sleeping in the afternoon. At that time, I used to think that why the God is giving me this type of punishment. I never did anything wrong. So I used to question to the God. No? That's it.
So after the violence started on the 3rd of May, you have not been able to meet your husband, or your child has not been able to meet her father. You all have not been able to like go out anywhere. I mean, I think the only option for you to, if you want to meet, is to go out.
Going in other states.
You can't meet within Manipur.
Yeah, we can't be in Manipur.
But it is also like will be expensive to travel and all of that.
Yeah.
And you're taking care of your mother as well.
I'm taking care of my mother as well. My daughter and I, only 3 of us.
So basically, you're saying that when you see other families, you're feeling a little like you're missing out. You're maybe, I mean, you're missing your husband. You feel like your child is also missing out on being around her father.
Yeah.
Then how do you kind of cope with that feeling? What do you do and what do you tell yourself to get over that feeling, or at least like pause it for a bit?
On that time, I used to start reading the Bible. And I used to just open it and I used to read. I just came to the Bible and just focusing only on the Bible. And after that, the things that what I miss, it's gone already.
So you feel like your faith is helping you cope.
Yeah.
What are the chances of you and your husband like meeting together again? Is it like affordable for you to go somewhere outside to go hati or something and meet them? Or is it do you feel like that is something that you're not able to do as yet?
I don't think so. That would be possible. Because the situation is, it's become into deep and it's in a critical condition
Right now.
right now. But even I never सोचता भी नहीं है ना, सपना में भी आने के लिए कोशिश भी नहीं करता. And
सपना नहीं देखते हैं किसका कि आप मिलोगे उनसे.
मिलोगे उससे तभी हम उसको जस्ट बोलता है ना, पूरा फ्यूचर में पूरा ये करने से ये आफ्टर वायलेंस में भी उसको मिल सकेगा नहीं सकेगा, ऐसे पूरा कंफ्यूजन में रहता था पहले. अभी तो पूरी डाउन हो चुका है.
Stories of separation are difficult. I've met many families that are living in relief camps that have had to send their children away to work just so that they could have at least some money. In a relief camp in Bishnupur, I met a mother who told me she had to send both her sons away to another state to work. Her reason wasn't just money. She didn't want her children to get caught up with any of the armed groups that now control Imphal. Yet, I found another story which surprised me, maybe because I was not looking for this story to begin with. I met Jessica at a relief camp in Mata. Her family fled to their hometown of More after their home came under attack in Imphal. Jessica saw me struggle to make conversation with the ladies in the relief camp she was staying at, who I was talking to about something completely unrelated. After a half hour of watching me make a fool out of myself, she interrupted me and started explaining what the others were saying. I was taken aback, not because of how Jessica seemed completely in control of doing the explaining from the minute she intervened, but because this kid is barely 11. Jessica had to skip school for a year as they were stranded in More, but she decided to move away from her parents and live with her grandparents, who were also displaced at this relief camp. Her decision to live with her grandparents was so that she could be of help to them, but more importantly, attend a school that is close to the camp, which according to her is the best option she's got. I want to end this episode with what this child had to say about her life at the camp and what she has envisioned for her future. So you've been here by yourself from 2024?
With my grandparents there.
With your grandparents? Your grandparents are from Imphal or Salampatong?
Salampatong.
Are you the only child or do you have
Brother.
Where is your brother?
My one brother is in Raven Hostel and my small brother is with my parents.
In More? How old is your small brother?
9.
9 years. So is he studying there?
Yeah. He's going to come in Lamkat in March.
He's also going to study here? So you have been studying here for 1 year, right? Before which you were studying in Imphal?
I was studying in KV, the same, and I transferred here.
You were studying in the KV of Imphal and then you transferred here. So what is the difference? Are you liking the KV here or are you missing the KV in Imphal?
I miss the KV in the Imphal.
Why? What do you miss?
In here, I think it's not regular classes and the teachers are not speaking in proper language, which we could not understand. And in the Imphal, I think it's always English, and when we don't know something, so like they teach us. But in here, they didn't teach us.
And the classes are not regular. Are there more children from Imphal in your school? People who fled from Imphal? Are there more of your classmates or more friends from Imphal who transferred and came to
KV?
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
How many more students are there?
I think there may be more than 6.
6 students.
But none of them were my classmates. But actually, some were class 2, some were class 7, some were class 8.
But there are 6, 7 students. So you joined the school in 2024, right? So 2023 you couldn't go to school. You missed 1 year.
Yeah.
Correct? Was it difficult for you to initially start studying because there had been a gap and you're also not staying with your parents? Was it initially difficult for you? How did you cope with the, with the gap? How did you start studying?
First, I didn't stay here. I stayed with my auntie in the King Kang Pai. She was a teacher, last year teacher. She taught me, when it was at the gaps, she taught me Kahaga, ABC. I almost forgot the
Alphabet?
Yeah. So she taught me all of it, and then when I start my school, my teachers give me some rest and teach me, so I just get along with it.
So you were able to catch up. Now do you feel like you're in a better place to study and to do better in your classes, in your subjects?
Yeah, I always get to 1 up to 3 rank. I never get 4 or 5. And properly that I think I'm just doing fine.
You're doing fine. Are you happy with your performance? Yeah. So, and is there any other difficulties that you're facing here in the camp?
Probably not that much, but I think the most problem we are facing is money.
Money. Like you think your parents are not able to earn money.
Yeah. But in fall, when we first tried the KV, it was RTE, right to education. It was free, compulsory. So my school admissions are free, but we need to pay for the van that we go to school.
Here you have to pay. In the school in Lamkaya.
The person who's driving.
To the driver.
Yeah. Transportation fee.
You mean here you have to pay for the transportation. But in Imphal you didn't have to pay. Your parents would drop you.
Yeah, my parents dropped me.
So here the only cost that you have to pay for is the driver cost. And that is costing you money. Okay. But you're going to school regularly.
Yeah.
What do you aspire to be? What is your dream? After you finish school, what do you want to study?
Medical studies.
You want to become a doctor?
Surgeon.
Surgeon. Why do you want to become a surgeon?
As a child, I see that most of the people die with like some cancer, some heart problems, and then my grandfather was sick and died from sick. So that from the day he died, I just promised myself that I would never lose any of my family members again.